Cleaner's black son yelled, "Don't get in the car!" What the CEO did next shocked the whole company. The morning sun glared against the glass walls of the towering corporate headquarters, its shine masking the tension that brewed inside. Executives hurried across the marble lobby, briefcases in hand, their polished shoes clicking like drums of power. But just outside, a boy stood frozen, his small frame trembling, his eyes wide with something deeper than fear. He wasn't supposed to be here. He was the cleaner's son, invisible to most, dismissed by all. Yet in that moment, he broke the silence with a cry that cut through the air like thunder. "Don't get in the car!" His voice echoed across the courtyard, sharp, desperate, and filled with a warning no one could understand. Heads turned. Security stiffened. And then the CEO himself paused mid-step, his hand hovering over the door of his luxury black sedan. Confusion filled the air. Why would a child dare to stop the most powerful man in the building? The CEO narrowed his eyes, his polished shoes crunching against the stone as he stepped closer to the boy. "And why?" he said slowly, his voice low but sharp enough to cut the air. "Should I not get in my own car?" The executives laughed louder this time, emboldened by their leader's words. One sneered, "Maybe he wants to drive it himself." Another shook his head, whispering, "Ridiculous. A janitor's son trying to play hero." But the boy didn't shrink. His gaze burned brighter, his small frame standing taller than the arrogance surrounding him. "Because it's not safe," he answered, his words trembling with urgency, not fear. "Please, don't!" The executives rolled their eyes, muttering insults, but the CEO held up a hand, silencing them instantly. His instincts, the same instincts that had built an empire, told him this was not a moment to laugh at. Something about the boy's voice, something in his conviction, stirred a warning deep inside. For the first time, unease crept into the morning air. The courtyard froze, as if time itself had stopped to listen. The boy's chest heaved, his fists clenched at his sides, eyes locked on the CEO with an intensity that no child should carry. Whispers erupted among the employees who gathered at the glass windows above. "Who is he?" someone muttered. "That's the cleaner's son," another replied, almost dismissive, as though that fact alone explained everything. But it didn't. Not today. The CEO, tall, commanding, dressed in a suit that spoke of wealth and dominance, turned slowly toward the boy. His brow furrowed, not with anger, but with a rare curiosity. Around him, his senior executives chuckled under their breath, exchanging smirks. To them, it was absurd, a child interrupting their leader's morning routine. Yet the boy's warning hadn't been a plea. It was a command. Firm, urgent, dangerous. "Don't get in the car," he repeated, softer now, but still echoing in every ear. And in that silence, a chill swept through the company courtyard. The boardroom was silent, every eye fixed on the CEO. He rose slowly, his shadow stretching across the polished floor, his voice steady but thunderous. "This ends now. No more lies. No more arrogance. Today the truth speaks louder than power." The executives who once mocked the cleaner's son now lowered their heads. Stripped of pride, their empire trembling, the CEO turned, his gaze falling on the boy. He placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "You saved lives today. You saw what others ignored. Courage is not about age or title. It's about heart." The boy's eyes widened, disbelief giving way to pride, as the crowd of men erupted, not in mockery, but in thunderous applause. And from that moment, the story spread beyond those walls. A cleaner's son had stood against giants. A child's warning had unmasked corruption. And a CEO had shown the world that leadership is not built on fear, but on listening to the smallest voice in the room. This was only the beginning. The room crackled with tension. The executive's polished masks shattered, and one finally broke. His voice was high, trembling, nothing like the arrogant tone he carried hours ago. "It wasn't us alone. We were following orders." The words spilled out like poison, filling the air with shock. The board gasped, men shifting uneasily in their seats, their carefully constructed world beginning to crumble. The CEO's eyes narrowed, sharp as steel. "Whose orders?" he demanded, his voice low, dangerous. Silence stretched, until the man whispered a name that made the room erupt. Gasps, curses, chairs scraping back. Betrayal had come from higher than anyone dared imagine. And there, in the center of it all, stood the cleaner's son. His small frame seemed to grow in that moment, his courage dwarfing the fear of men twice his age. What he had shouted in panic had now pulled the mask off an empire. And the CEO knew this was far bigger than a car. This was about the soul of the company. The CEO's voice boomed like thunder, silencing every denial. You laughed at him while he saved your lives. And now you expect me to believe this is all a coincidence? His words cut through the air like a verdict. The two men shook their heads wildly, their polished confidence crumbling into desperation. Security stepped closer, the stadium-like silence of the office broken only by the men's frantic protests. "We didn't mean it. We didn't know," one shouted, but no one listened. The evidence was too damning. The boy's trembling but steady hand pointing directly at the truth. And then the CEO knelt beside the boy, his towering presence softening for the first time. You saw what grown men could not. You had the courage to speak when others stayed silent. His words were not only for the boy, but for everyone watching. In that moment, it was clear. The hierarchy had shifted. This was no longer just about betrayal. It was about respect, earned in the unlikeliest of ways. Gasps cut through the chaos as the CEO's gaze swept over the trembling crowd of executives. His voice lowered, sharp as a blade. Someone knew. Someone planted this. Panic rippled like a storm. Eyes darted, whispers hissed. And then, his stare locked on the two men who had mocked the boy moments earlier. Their smug grins were gone, replaced by beads of sweat sliding down pale faces. One executive stammered, "What are you looking at us for? We had nothing to do with this." But the boy's small hand tugged the CEO's sleeve, pointing at the briefcase still near their seats. The CEO's eyes narrowed. His tone was quiet, dangerous. "Funny, that's where this started." The men backed away, shaking their heads. No, you don't understand." But the crowd had already turned. Fingers pointed, murmurs grew, and fear spread faster than reason. In a single heartbeat, the hunters became the hunted, and the boy who was once mocked now stood as the only reason. The truth had been seen at all. The CEO's jaw clenched as he crouched down, eyes locked on the blinking device. "Everyone step back!" His command thundered through the air, sending executives stumbling away in panic. The stadium of polished pride and arrogance suddenly looked fragile, broken by a single red pulse. One man muttered, trembling, It's a bomb." The words struck like lightning, freezing every breath. Security rushed in, radios crackling, voices sharp with urgency. The executives who had laughed at the boy now cowered behind guards, their faces pale, drenched in sweat. The CEO stood tall, shielding the boy instinctively, his authority no longer about wealth or titles, but about life and death. He looked at the child again, his voice steady but heavy with awe. "You saved me." The boy's lip trembled, but his eyes stayed firm. "I couldn't let you go in." Around them, silence turned to whispers, whispers turned to chaos. And the questions spread like fire. Who placed it there? And why? The CEO raised a hand, silencing the laughter. His voice was sharp, unyielding. "Open the car." The executives froze, their smug grins faltering. "Sir, this is ridiculous," one stammered. But the CEO's glare cut him down instantly. The driver hesitated, then slowly pulled the handle. A heavy pause. The door swung open. The air shifted. Inside the car, tucked beneath the leather seat, a small blinking light pulsed. Red, steady, sinister. Gasps rippled through the silence. One executive stumbled back, his face draining of color. That's not possible," he muttered. The CEO's chest tightened, his instincts confirmed. His gaze snapped back to the boy, whose wide eyes brimmed with fear but also with relief. "You saw this?" the CEO demanded. The boy nodded slowly. "I had to stop you." The once mocking crowd was silent now, their arrogance shattered. What was once laughter turned to dread, because this was no childish imagination. This was a warning, a life-or-death truth. The driver shifted uncomfortably, his hand already on the door handle. "Sir, shall I?" he asked, glancing nervously between the CEO and the boy. The executives burst into laughter again, one slapping the hood of the sleek black car. "Go on, get in! Don't let a janitor's child waste your time!" Their voices echoed with arrogance, each word meant to humiliate. But the CEO didn't move. His jaw tightened, eyes locked on the boy who now stood trembling but unyielding. "What aren't you telling me?" The CEO pressed, his tone dark, demanding. The boy swallowed hard, his fists clenched at his sides. "There's something in the car," he whispered. A hush fell over the group, just for a second. Then came another round of cruel laughter. "What's next?" An executive scoffed. "Ghosts in the engine? Rats in the seat?" They mocked louder, desperate to cover the flicker of doubt that had entered the air. But the CEO didn't laugh this time. His gut twisted. His instinct screamed. Something was wrong.